You heard something about Crossfire Legion? No? And it's one of the worst strategy games of the last few years. Yes, they did it, without choosing any soft words. Only that the powerful Warcraft 3 Reforged status convulsing and a year of rain status that can compare with it in terms of level of fealty. Prior to that, the main strategy disappointment of the year was the technical state and lazy support for Total War Warhammer 3, which brought the promising game to the very bottom of the mixed review on Steam. Crossfire Legion has a high rating, but only because almost nobody cares about it. True, you probably won't have learned anything about it without this text. However, you should know such anti-heroes by sight. It turns out that games no longer need to have millions of fans to become greedy and untalented. 383 players at peak, average online in the form of miserable 39 gamers just 10 years after launch. As I write these lines, it has already become obvious to everyone that Crossfire Legion is an epic failure that should have been scrapped after the negative feedback and reviews so generously given out by beta tester already after the first dose of the OBT. As unfortunate as is to say, the fact that there's nothing for the player to do in this Legion is just the tip of the iceberg. The situation is unthinkable. Under the guise of classic strategy for old Gath gamers try to show another greedy game service in a very raw state. It sure seems that its authors have already created Homeward Desert of Havoc, which showed mediocre sales despite the presence of the strong publisher of the person of Gearbox. Something had to change in their approach. But no, Crossfire Legion, with all its orphited and rationalness, has the nerve to stretch its weak hands to your wallet, luring games out of real resource and money. How could this happen? And the thing is that Crossfire Legion is based on the popular shooter, which at some point decided turned into a multi-genre universe. Thankfully, the settings allow three private military companies with different principles and ideals fight for power or rather the world peace. These military corporations even have similar names: Global Risk, Blacklist and New Horizon. The fictions are pretty damn similar to each other. Even though the game feels like a decade late StarCraft 2 clone, the player will never get the feeling of fundamental differences, like between Zerg and Protoss. The problem of faction identity should have been fixed by the story campaign. It is here, but all it all achieves is a boldly emphasize the game's problems. At the moment, only the first act is available, consisting of 4 missions. In fact, the first 3 is our training. In one we are taught are the simplest basics of warface, using only infantry. In the second one, we are also entombed with bicycles, demanding first to destroy Global Risk troops close in the beside building, and then to evacuate rescue Blacklist fighters and civilians, accompanying the bus with their tank convoy. The first mission finally gives you control of the hero. Here we have your own Nova Terra, capable of going into inverse line in shooting enemy infantry with accurate sniper shots. Plus here is base construction, but on the very simple level. Only the final 4th mission on the first act gives a taste of power. The enemy has as many as 3 bases. He constantly throws until at us, acting aggressively, and after half an hour the timer for bringing the mission to victory is switched on. The deadline is explained by weather, before the start of which you need to launch vehicles, destroying anti-aircraft, anti-airgun guns. On the forums you can meet opinions of people who burned because of his high complexity of the AI even on the easy. That is, on the easy level. The condition faction of do this. Blacklist is the most boring in the game. It opposes the military giant Global Risk, and the humanization organization New Horizon has armed itself and got involved in the conflict. but this on paper. And in fact the campaign consists of 4 schemeless between good blacklist and evil global threats. Almost all units look the same, in the classic militaristic style. Honestly, all branches of the military lack uniqueness. Even the great houses in Dune 2 on Sega Mega Drive were more interesting and unique than these 3 military forces. A grammar statement, but still, it's any of these common and queer claims. There were more visual and gameplay difference between the factions, and there we are. After 2 hours, a loot for the refund expire and the game cannot be returned. The player puzzled by the micro-story will go to the other modes. There are only 2 of them, custom games and skirmish, which is called here aftermatch. I thought nobody will automatically play for you. You will simply be offered to choose one of the modes, 1 on 1, 2 on 2 and 3 on 3. No nuances. There's a 3 type of maps. The usual competitive ones, 4 of them, and the battle for control points, 3 of them. And the one is copy map, where it all necessary be the 3 of you to fight against of very evil AI. And here we got one of the most boring thing in the game. For each mission, you are allowed to take only a limited number of units. 1 commander, each faction has 2 types of infantrymen, 2 tanks, 2 flying units, and 1 super unit to carry a very powerful tank. Accordingly, there is 1 alternative version for each unit. And come only that way. Additional troops are closed by a strange paywall. You need to save up in-game currency, which fall at 3 pennies per match, and you can donate quickly, at least not yet. But it is already evident in this progression design due to the idea to give players the opportunity to reduce the time, to pump the account to buy troops closer to release. Moreover, all the science of classic shop is here. Bundles, promotions, powerful units for extra currency. At the same time, there is very real content. It is designed for competitive multiplayer, which is not here because of extremely low online. And fans of single-player modes will spend only 2.5 of hours on the storyline, and will hardly have time to hand over the check with the game to the lazy publisher. In general, the trouble is not even the Crossfire. Legion has nothing to price it for. The situation is much worse. There's nothing to say about it beyond its poorness, and certainly not worth spending a minute of your time on it, instead of bringing back of the heartwarming nostalgia in the form of the old-school strategy game, in the spirit of great games in the past. The result is a banal, outdated tracing of the once popular RTC, especially StarCraft 2. Instead of developing the genre in any way like Age of Empires 4, Legion only reproduced the external future of the classics, rubbing it greedy palms in anticipation of money pouring down on it. Crossfire Legion is so brazen that it doesn't hesitate to loudly proclaim it from its first day in the early access. Well, how loud? Fortunately, we hardly see anyone agreeing with this approach. Online is not even at the bottom now, but at the bottom. The number of units in the game will certainly grow, as they are in main item for the game purchases. But do you need units in the unremarkable strategy game with a companion that take 2 hours to complete and not to other player online? You know, there is a second failed experiment in the Crossfire series, after the release of the Crossfire X last year. Maybe it's time to stop. If the developer brings the project to free version with the number 1, making the promising campaign of 50 missions and really diversity of sites, we will be extremely surprised. Now, the whole project can be described in 3 words: shoddy, greedy, and arrogance. Gamers realize this and bypass Legion. That's why you can put a fat cross on this future already now. By the way, the game not insult. And this is exactly the case when you can say with click on good riddance. Thank you for watching.